What's up, my friends? Good morning, and I do hope that you are well. I want to get on and, I get these emails and I read things, and comments are made within an email that might not be intentional, but they may have been made in a way that people could misinterpret them. Now, I follow a guy because actually I went through his course with doing music for advertising, and I've talked about I really want to get good and much better at writing for advertising because it's really a good market being it's fun to write for, but you make good money doing it. But what I'm doing currently with sync licensing and a certain part of library music is just as beneficial, and it's just as can be just as successful, is the better words you're using, can be just as successful as that. And I don't think a lot of people realize this. When you get people going, which they're right about, you want to get into music and you find out what the industry's doing to you about paying you pennies for TikTok posts and YouTube's cutting your throat, which is very true. Here I'm talking on YouTube, and I'm sorry, but the truth is YouTube pulled the rug out from under creators when they realized, oh no, you're making too much money. We can't do that. So now we have to cut you off and do this, and now it's, a lot of YouTubers have had to be creative. Now it's sponsorships and other things they're doing, it is what it is. It's the reality of today, folks. It is what it is. But I digress on that. But they start saying, Spotify's demonetizing songs that are under 1,000 plays, which I think is wrong. I think they need to fight that and put a stop to that crap, because they need to be paid for every play regardless. And that should be illegal. That's not cool. But then he makes a comment saying, well, your best bet is to put your music in a library and cross your fingers and hope for the best. Now, that might be right in one regard, but for the majority of it, that's not correct. Sync licensing and library music is not about putting in libraries and crossing your fingers and hoping for the best. Now, I took his course and it was amazing. I knew about most of it, but what was beneficial is him talking about really strategically how to write for advertisements and how to really write to video, to asset, and a few things that I've learned. And I want to go back over that because I really do want to get in that. And I think it was amazing. I love him to death. I think he's great at what he does. He goes by the name Tommy Z. And if you ever heard of him, if you know who I'm talking about, but if not, you need to go on YouTube. You need to get on YouTube and you need to follow him. I think I've mentioned him. Tommy Z talks about writing for advertising. And a lot of stuff he says is right, but Tommy may not have gotten into sync licensing in the library music, but he has gotten into the advertising and he knows that. And he really is top notch at that. And if you want to find out a little bit about that, I would follow him and maybe explore that a little bit if you're interested in that. It's a hard industry to get into, but so is sync licensing. If anything was easy, everybody'd be doing it, It's anything, as the old saying goes, anything worth having is worth working for. However, you've got to love what you're doing. You got to love music. I get up every day and my coffee tastes so much better knowing that I'm getting up doing what I love to do. No matter what else I'm doing around it, I love what I'm doing. And that's important. You got to love the journey because it's a long game. And if you don't think the advertising end of it could be a long game, it can be too. You got to get good. And in the advertising world, when you're doing custom up front with a lot of things, you're in that demo game, which if you get called from a music house or a company that writes, specifically for advertising, but does other things, there are sync libraries, guys, that do a lot of advertising. I name a few for you. They do advertising and they pull tracks that you've already written that you've targeted for a broad range of placements so that your track would fit that advertising and it can be edited. They may come to you saying, listen, we've got an ad agency that loves your track that you wrote for 6 months ago. We need the stems, unless you gave them the stems, but we need you to maybe do something else for us to add to this so we can chop it up in a different manner. Or they may say, we've got the stems, everything's good to go. Awesome. We'll keep you posted on the rest. And there's an upfront budget for that. in Tommy Z's case, in talking about, advertising, they may call 3 or 4 guys that they know do that genre of music and that's their specialty and say, hey, here's a brief, and you'll learn about what questions to ask and everything you need to know about it, what to and not do. And he'll say, do you want to give your hand at it? There's a $500 demo fee, but if you get the budget, if they pick your song, you may get $2,000 or $3,000 up to $10,000 to $20,000, depending on what the brand pays up front for that ad. I'm naming just different amounts because they can get up to that amount of money. Don't think they can't. And that's your half. You're splitting with the music house. Forgetting it. It's a 50-50 split, which is the industry standard, a fair deal. And there are a small amount of royalties for back end for the short term or how long the duration that commercial runs. But backing up here, Tommy made the comment of the only thing you could do is put your music into a library, cross your fingers, and hope for the best. And I'm going to correct that a little bit. And I'm going to correct that a little bit by saying that if you are writing in a targeted manner and specifically based on what you are good at and finding the libraries that place a ton of that music, you don't have to cross your fingers and hope, my friends. You just have to understand that not every track is being used 100%, though it will be over time, and some tracks just never get placed, and there's no reason why. It's not that it was bad. Maybe it was just sitting overlooked. Maybe they didn't meta tag it right. I don't know. No one really knows. I don't, at 1,700 tracks I've done so far over the years, almost 2,000 tracks, I can't look back and see the ones that haven't been placed. I know there's a few of them that have never been placed, but those were the earliest ones I did, and I know for a reason why they haven't got placed. I know that, That's not to say they would never get placed, because I've had tracks that I never wrote those tracks for TV placements, but yet they got placed on TV. There are tracks I said they'll never see placement, and that's okay. I'm just going to get better and move forward. But they've gotten placements. I was writing dramedy stuff and didn't know I was doing it, but it wasn't structured as dramedy and it wasn't done right. It was repetitive, but yet it got placed because the ending had a stinger ending, like a button ending at the end. It just didn't fade out. And they were like, oh, just take that last note with that and we'll just use that snippet because we're lazy and we want to do it. We don't care about the other options. Some editors, they hear one thing and they hear the ending. Like, let's go with that. That's cool. We'll go with that scene. And they needle drop it. Now, did that track get placed a ton? Not, but here and there it pops up. But guys, don't let people tell you that, just if you're putting your stuff in music libraries, cross your fingers, hope for the best. Good luck on that. I've heard that a couple of times with people that say that you're never really going to do anything, just putting your stuff in these libraries, it's never going to do anything. Well, the only part of that might be true is if you're in stock libraries. I hate to say that, but the stock music libraries that just don't really have a target, and they have people come in and they see subscriptions and they might be using them for a presentation or a YouTube video, or they may never get, and they're letting AI eat them up. Now, we're talking about exclusive sync libraries. They're very professional, very targeted at what they do. They will tell you what they need the most of. They send briefs out with that very thing in mind. These guys are getting a lot of music placed to what you do the best. Yeah, you got to target it. And remember, and I've said this before on a side note, you're not a fit for every library. Don't think that you are. Listen, I submit to libraries. In fact, I just submitted 10 tracks to a library that I've done before, and I just said, if they don't take these, then I definitely know I'm not a fit for them, and that's okay. It's not that they're bad, because I know those tracks are going to go elsewhere, and they're going to get placed. I know a library that's going to take them, and they'll place them, they'll do well. These other libraries know that, you're shopping or you're doing things, and that's okay. It's part of it. They just want to make sure that music is exclusive for them, and it always is. That's the one thing I always make sure. Don't ever assume the library's not going to do. Don't think that you're going to get away with doing that stuff. Don't ever do that stuff. You do things ethically. You do things right. You do right by people. Okay, don't ever do that. There's a couple of people out there now. One, I'm not going to mention the name, but a lot of people know about. He's playing games and doing stuff that's not cool. And by now, he's been booted off so many libraries, and the things he's done, I just don't even want to repeat. Or the things, let me just say, the things people have stated that he's done has just blown my mind. And it's sad. And I just wish he would just stop and just realize that let's do the right thing here, you know? And in fact, at this point, it may be too late for him, and it's sad. Listen, this is a huge industry, but it's a small industry because people talk. And they do it at these conferences and these groups. Trust me. So do the right thing, okay? That's my point on that. But guys, don't fall into this. Don't let people tell you that, oh, I don't want to just chase all these cable placements. That's wrong too, because if you've been told that and made to believe that, you need to stop and think. It's not just, it's way deeper than that. It's not just cable placements, and it's network TV, it's movies, it's documentaries, it's crime shows, you name it. And I've had placements on all that stuff. You know, major network shows, films, you know, Lifetime movies, sports. And I've said you need to be diverse, and you should be. If you're a trailer composer and you're just waiting for that big payout and you want to keep doing it, but you're not getting placements or anything else, do a couple extra cues or stuff of what you're good at beyond that. It could be tension, it could be rock, it could be hip hop, it could be whatever. Find something else that you love to do and do a couple a week and generate some volume of stuff that you know is going to get placed with some of these libraries and be diverse. A couple extra tracks a week is not going to kill you. You put a lot of time in a week on a good trailer track. Be diverse and do some things around that build up exponential growth with that, and then let it all meet. Because once the time comes that you've gotten a big payout for a big trailer, and you could have been getting all this exponential growth, this other money, when are you going to get that next payout? I'm not trying to discourage trailer composers. I think it's incredible. Trailer composing is its own genre. It takes certain people to do it. I put trailer elements and things in it, but I'm not a trailer composer. I do other things. But I'm just trying to say that my only point is if you've gotten in the mindset that I'm not just going to chase those cable placements and I don't want to do that, don't fall for that. It's deeper than that. And my point of today's video is that Tommy Z, I've learned a lot from him, and he's great, and I really one day want to get into writing for advertisements. I think it's great. I think he's amazing. You should follow him. But just a little correction that he didn't complete the statement by saying that sync licensing is pretty much one and the same as writing for advertising, except there's the front-end aspect of it, and it's more custom for advertising. And you're not letting it sit into a library. It's custom music. You're writing it custom for a client. It's big. That's the only difference, is that sync licensing on the back end can be put into advertisement as well. There are tracks. There are exclusive sync libraries that pull tracks for advertising agencies. You know, there are two libraries that come to mind. One is called The Diner Music. Eric K. runs that. And the other one is Howling Music with Dave Grohl. These guys have worked with some of the biggest advertising agencies in the world. And they know. So keep that in mind, guys. Don't fall for that. And I'm telling you that sync licensing and putting your music in the libraries works. You just have to be targeted, and it's exclusive sync licensing, and do it. You got any other questions, chime in below. Chime in on anything. Give me your input. And I appreciate you for watching. We'll see you guys on the next one. Be cool. Bye.